I found this video, Norman. I don't know if you recall this. This is from 2022, Joe Biden.
It was a 4-lane highway that was accessible. My mother drove us, and rather than us be able to walk. And guess what? The first frost, you know what was happening? You had to put on your windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer. And why can't, for the longest time, Delaware had the highest cancer rate in the nation.
So this is just me speculating, obviously, but that was from 2022. And to me, that sounds kind of like an unintentional moment of honesty of him saying that he has cancer. And if that's correct, then, you know, in the intervening time when there could have been open primaries and things like that, all of the people that you had mentioned, from Jill Biden to the chief of staff to any of these operatives, made the decision knowing that was his health condition, continued to make sure that that wasn't possible.
Well, I don't think we know when he got the cancer diagnosis, but we do know, as you said, that the energy is being taken away from where it should be, both because of the focus on, exactly how demented, so to speak, was he at one time, but also because the Democratic Party itself has leadership that's tangling itself in knots and pretzels right now because they can't own up. I mean, there are some exceptions. A few members of Congress, Ro Khanna was a surrogate. He said, look, last week, he said, we made a mistake. And unless we acknowledge the mistake, we're going to have to face the fact that we'll just be in, essentially, he didn't put it this way, but I would call it a repetition compulsion disorder. But that's very different than Chuck Schumer, who's been confronted at least twice on CNN in recent days on this question. And both times he said, let's move forward. That's his answer because he got that scripted by the damage control people.
Like it's like the Obama refusing to prosecute Bush, saying we're looking forward, not backward.
Right. Yeah, you know what I'm waiting for is the shoplifters and the armed robbers
right.
and the people who were squatters and those who were accused of stealing cars. They go into court and the prosecutors say, well, let's look forward, not backward.
That was in the past, Norman.
Yeah.
You know,
Right. Sure.
Anyway, thank you.
Wanted to ask you your thoughts on this new book by Jake Tapper, which he co-wrote with Alex Thompson from Axios. What are your thoughts on this book?
Yeah, it was rolled out over a period of 3 months, a tremendous drumbeat. I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement to even get a copy. I wrote about it, and The Nation published my piece on Tuesday last week because hours before that, the New York Times basically jumped the line and broke the embargo. It's all to say that it's a huge commercial enterprise. And I say 2 cheers for the book, definitely not 3, because it exposes just the degree of dissembling, outright lies, deception, shameless eagerness to deceive the people of the United States through the news media in every which way that was pursued relentlessly by the Biden family, by the chiefs of staff and the top aides in the White House, with the direct complicity of top Democratic leaders in Congress like Chuck Schumer. I mean, Schumer should, on the basis of the evidence in the book, be forced to resign, certainly as minority leader of the Senate. It ain't going to happen unless we organize effectively around that. For instance, I think, though, the book really lets the Democrats in Congress off the hook because it was the silence. Almost all of them were not willing to call out what was hidden in plain sight, which was that Biden was barely competent in his last couple of years, just cognitively, to be president, let alone to run again and essentially be president for the next 4 years for his second term. At rootsaction.org, we don't claim to be rocket scientists. We're not claiming to be brilliant. But in November of 2022, we launched the Don't Run Joe campaign. And we could not find one other single sizable national organization to join us. This is the cultural fear, the contagion that still continues. And there's a lot of people now, and I understand, they're saying, hey, you know, Trump is evolving into a full-blown dictator. Why are you talking about what happened? Well, like Orwell said, those who control the past control the future. Those who control the present control the past. This pattern of the Democratic Party's so-called leadership is enduring. It is about fear. It is about don't challenge the leadership. We have to be willing and able from the grassroots to insist that Schumer shouldn't be in the leadership. He's discredited. We have Hakeem Jeffries, who right after the inauguration hightailed it to Silicon Valley to tell these gazillionaires there, hey, we're going to move the Democratic Party to the center from where the party is, not that it isn't already dead in the middle of the corporate center to begin with. So these folks are pretty much, I won't say waving a white flag, they're just rhetorically claiming to oppose this Trump dictatorship, and they're not doing a whole hell of a lot.
Right. Let's take a look, by the way, at this. I'm just going to show what this book looks like. Original Sin, President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again by Jake Tapper. And here's the, you can see an image of Biden with someone covering his eyes. The New York Times calls it explosive. The Atlantic says it's the most significant book to date about Biden's cognitive decline, which is kind of a sad thing. Suggests that there's a whole genre of books about Biden's cognitive decline. Superbly reported reads like a Shakespearean drama on steroids. I think from reading your review, I'm not sure you would give it that amazing a review. But one of the things that you mention is that what you found most shocking was actually what was said about Kamala Harris. Perhaps the most noteworthy sentence in Original Sin is the one about Kamala Harris. The issue that she truly and most strongly disagreed with the president on behind closed doors was Israel's war against Hamas and Gaza. That's the quote. That's what the book says. The book says the issue that she truly and most strongly disagreed with the president on behind closed doors was Israel's war against Hamas and Gaza. And then you write, her public echoing of Biden's explanations for huge nonstop weapon shipments to Israel was both morally unconscionable and politically damaging. By a big margin, polls were clear that most Americans wanted to stop arming Israel. So what is the significance of this claim for you?
I think it's about political cowardice and about a culture of our partisan politics in both parties, where looking out for yourself and not wanting to rock any big boats and it would come back on you is really par for the course. And so she's a dramatic example, and I don't think we should be fatalistic about it. It doesn't have to be that way, but it was that way with her. She could have actually spoken out. She declined to do so. And can you imagine, while people in Gaza, men, women, children, so many civilians are being slaughtered and starved, courtesy of US taxpayers, and Kamala Harris has an opportunity to actually depart from the policies and basically, frankly, sucking up to Biden, and she refuses to do so. Something that has emerged was that right before she went into her one debate with Trump, she got a call from Joe Biden, and he said, Kamala, no daylight between us. She was being warned by him, and this is, again, where there are echoes of the past, because Hubert Humphrey, running for president in 1968, was humiliated, was warned by the incumbent president, Lyndon B. Johnson, don't you dare distance from my Vietnam War policy. And he was just chicken shit. He wouldn't buck the president. He was vice president. And so it was all very late in the campaign. He took these mincing steps. Well, Kamala Harris didn't even take mincing steps. And as you alluded to in the passage there about the polling was obvious. It was by YouGov, a reputable pollster in swing states. If she had spoken out calling for an arms embargo, she would have gotten a lot more votes.
Right. Yeah, we even spoke about it on this show. And I remember asking you, and it's not that easy to calculate, but I was asking kind of devil's advocate if we knew what the political cost of like upsetting donors and upsetting AIPAC would have been, which is something we still don't know. But I think it's probably, well, what do you think? I asked you that then. Do you have any new thoughts on this?
Well, that's the calculus that she made, consciously or not. I think that there was a lot of fear of her base, which is the punditocracy. Right. Mass media columnists, the commentators, the journalists, people like Jake Tapper and zillions of others, and major cable outlets, on MSNBC, Morning Joe, and all the rest of them. They were, along with her advisors, down the middle. They said, do not do anything different of substance from Joe Biden. So she would have really angered some of those people, but they don't have a lot of votes. So it's, as they say, counterfactual. We don't know the results, but she'd already at that point raised, by early fall, close to $1 billion with a B dollars, which shows that actually dollars don't vote.
Right. That's true. Yeah, that is a good point. And of course, I'm not defending not doing the right thing on this issue. I'm just curious about if we have any data about how I guess it's hard to quantify the damage that having AIPAC go after you would have done.
Yeah, and part of it is where political analysis and psychoanalysis overlap, because these are folks who raised themselves out through the ranks. They got used to pleasing those who were higher up in the political ladder. And, you think about even now, there's a lot of focus on age. Well, let's face it, Bernie Sanders is Biden's age, and he's totally on it. He's completely sharp like a tack, as the saying goes. So it's not about age, it's about capacity, whether you have the cognitive ability and what you believe in, or what do you believe in, or does that affect then what you actually do? So we have the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries. He's 53 years old, but he might as well be 100 years old, because he rose himself through the ranks by pleasing who? Pleasing Nancy Pelosi. That shows your mentality, and it acculturates you. So that's, I think, what's part of the challenge to transform the hierarchy dominance of a political party, which is, it's the psychology too. It's changing a political culture. And that means really calling it out. And that's where, again, why I understand people are saying, let's focus on Trump. He's a absolute historic criminal already. He's a dictator. He's costing so many incalculable lives in domestic program, foreign program, and so forth. I understand people are right that we should be focusing on that. But at the same time, if we don't change the political culture and call it out of the only electoral vehicle, the Democratic Party, with a capacity to defeat these fascistic Republicans in federal elections, then we're going to have them rolled again and again by the fascists.
Right. I mean, yeah, I think it's not looking backwards to try to figure out how to win next time moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I want to show another quote from the book that you cite. And this is a quote of Schumer. So this is, as you warn against, this is like a fly on the wall quote. And it doesn't have any attribution, right? But this is apparently, the following was said. Schumer said, "Mr. President, your chances of winning are only 5%. I've talked to your pollsters. I know all three of them, and they think it's a 5% chance. 5%. Biden goes, really? Schumer goes, yes. They're Donilon and Ricchetti, not who are two of his advisors, are not telling you. The pollsters told me. He's not seen our polls. It all goes to Donilon, and Donilon interprets it. Okay, you have a 5% chance. The analytics guy who probably knows this best said it's 1%. So obviously, as you said, this implicates not just Biden's advisors, but also someone like Chuck Schumer.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And he, of course, publicly was saying that not only Biden was in a strong position, but also he had all of his marbles, which it's very clear in his last couple of years he did not. And I think a lot of people are going around in their heads and in discourse this week of, well, who do we blame? I mean, if somebody, and many of us have known people who began to suffer from dementia, well, it's an illness, it's a physical impairment. Do we blame Biden? Well, on the one hand, no, because he's impaired. On the other hand, him arming genocide
of course,
consistent with 50 years of his politics.
Right. Yes, he doesn't get it out from that. We can't pretend it was dementia that made him arm Israel.
Yeah, exactly, because that's his reflex. And then we go to, okay, the outer circles, which was his, I mean, clearly Jill Biden was crucial to the denial, the family as a whole, then the people who were the chief of staff and so forth. But that's where, I mean, Roots Action took out an ad for Don't Run Joe in early 2023. It was 2 full-page ads. One of them was help wanted. And we were, so to speak, beseeching Democrats in Congress, progressives there, step out, run against Biden. We didn't get any response at all. They were just keeping their heads down.